What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JR Wisdom channel. I want to thank all you guys for tuning back in. For those of you who are new to my channel, make sure y'all go ahead and hit the subscribe button at this time along with the bell. That way you get all the notifications for all my upcoming videos and new content that I'll be putting out, periodically. So, being that you guys clicked on this channel, I'm glad you guys are tuning in. This is, as you can see in the title, is a very sensitive topic. I've been entrusted with speaking on this, and I consider it an honor, and I hope I don't let anyone down by doing this video, and that I hope you take the good from the video, and whatever I say that may be wrong, you guys hopefully dismiss it and only take this, the positive and the good, and hopefully this video helps someone. This topic was brought to me, and I thought, that it's so, polarizing. The actual, how it affects the youth, and, parenting and being a parent and loss and, emotions and the heart and the human condition, all these different things, depression, mental illness. A lot of these things I've spoken on in the past. So I hope I do this topic justice, and I hope I do the memory of Miss Naimah McDonald, justice, and I hope that, somebody takes something from it, especially the fathers out there who may not be actually involved in their daughters' lives. So without further ado, like I said, this video is going to be, on a sensitive and emotional topic, as I said, that no parent can really prepare for, for the most part, with these things. Things in life like this, it happens, and it's traumatizing, and it can be devastating to the parent, as far as the absence goes. But I've spoken, for those of you who have seen my videos, I've spoken in the past about, being a father and how important it is as far as the emotional development of your daughter, and a father's responsibility, and the mental well-being, the mental health, the mental fitness of the daughter, and the crucial part of how it plays a part in self-esteem and things like that. Just being the presence of a father is very critical in a daughter's, her formative years. Adolescence. Usually people think of adolescence, teenage years, but sometimes we don't think about the actual, toddler up into 5, 6, 7, the younger years. We don't really think of those too much. We just think of more so, adolescents and teenagers, like I said. Besides the love of a mother, many girls grow up and, missing or not having the love of their father, so they look for it in other men. And I've heard this from other women, and other documentaries. You hear these things, that many women who end up in certain relationships, they don't know, they're seeking that father who was never there in other men, and they don't know exactly what they're looking for. They're just looking to be loved by this man, and this man ends up taking advantage of them, in one way, shape, or form, or end up using that somehow. And oftentimes these women, they may have deep-seated, resentment, anger, even depression, which is, to think that, a young child, 5, 6, 7, 8 to develop depression. Many of us tend not to think about that. It's like, how can a child that young develop depression? I know that I've thought about that when I was younger. Like, how could a child actually be depressed? Because children are supposed to be so happy, but there are things in their lives that triggers this, especially for some girls, who deal with these abandonment issues, and they, a lot of them a lot of times they end up getting in the adult industry, porn, stripping, other things like that, because they're looking for, prostitution. They're looking for that male role model, and sometimes that man will take charge, like I said, and use that. This happens a lot, this abandonment issue. Even though the mother is there, the mother may at times tell the daughter, your father, or may say false things about the father. Your father did this, or your father doesn't want you. Your father doesn't want to be with you, which makes it worse. Your father doesn't love you, and things like that. Or, maybe actually try to keep the daughter away from the father. And that girl always grows up wanting to know, or feeling that this man, this father, just didn't want her. She's not good enough, or things like that. And it brings on this cycle that they end up dealing with their entire life. I think I've spoken in the past, obviously. My ex-wife had, I guess, this issue. She has, as if you watch my other videos, I explain how she has a mental illness, which has gone unchecked a lot of times. But much of this came from her not having a father figure, and abuse and things of that nature. And she resented her father much of her life because he was not present. Even though, despite what he said when she did finally meet him, that he did try to reach out. But the mother in this case just was trying to keep the father away, and I guess he eventually gave up at this point. So that affected her growing up, and even into being a grown woman. There was that deep-seated depression, so to speak, because from that. A lot of these women or young girls at this point develop a lack of confidence, because even though the mother may try, they're not able to develop that confidence that the father may give them, as far as telling them they're beautiful from a man's perspective, or building that confidence in themselves, not just the fact of them feeling they're beautiful. I was on a hangout with another YouTuber, and I actually said that, and he basically said that, it's not for you to be telling your daughter that she's beautiful if she's not attractive, which I found that to be kind of, weird for him to say. He did say something about it's upon you as the father to build confidence in your daughter, which is true as well. But you have that responsibility to actually tell your daughter that she is beautiful, to cultivate that within herself, to love herself, as far as to feel that she is beautiful, rather than to hate herself. So that's what I was trying to convey, even though he was just trying to say building up your own, it's upon you to build up the self-esteem and confidence, which is true as well. So a lot of these things of not feeling wanted, anyone who doesn't feel wanted at some point will develop some type of condition, or something within themselves to make them feel like they're not good enough, and may tend to do other things, sink into depression, look for it in something else, whether that be drugs or something, just to numb this pain. Now, we see this a lot, where a child may reach out to a father and get no response, and sometimes some fathers they feel that it's the child's responsibility to establish a relationship with them, and not vice versa. They feel that if the child, and that may be due to whatever reasons they may feel that they may have tried through the mother, and the mother may be keeping the father away. But it's crazy to me, I guess, for a man to get to that point and say, well, it's upon the child. If the child wants a relationship with me, then they need to seek me out to do it. Which is, I think is completely wrong. But that's just my opinion, in this situation. As I said, these girls, who are already emotional, they're confused, and they have a hard time interacting with men. or don't know how to interact with men. And the mother can only go based off of her experience with men, as opposed to a man, developing that relationship with his daughter on how to actually interact with the man, or to show his daughter, the love that he has for her. This goes in this can go many different avenues on, but what I want fathers to know is that how important your role is in your daughter's life. And I tend, as I said, I have a daughter, and I intend to let her know, or at all times let her know, that she's loved, and to inspire confidence within herself, self-esteem, and to let her know that she is beautiful. And whatever she does after that, at least I know I've done my best to establish this relationship and to motivate her in these, on these things that I've discussed. So as I said, when we going into talking about Naimah McDonald, I don't know if I'll be able to really do this topic justice, but I want to bring awareness to everyone. And maybe, for those of you who may not be familiar with her story, dealing with the loss of a loved one, especially a child, for anyone, is going to bring indescribable pain. It's like, obviously, like ripping someone's heart from their chest and having to live with the memory of outliving your child for the rest of your life, and that memory replaying over and over. I don't know what that's like. I know what, many of you may know what the loss of a loved one is like. I know what the loss of a loved one is like, especially in my case, the person is still living, So that's as far as, the extent that I know for that. I know what depression is like. I know what having unresolved grief is like. But I know it's different for different people. So for all of you that may be listening, I just want to relate the story of Naima Denise McDonald. For those of you who don't know, she was a bright young girl, that was destined for great things. And a lot of people consider her to be ahead of her time. She was involved in the community, was, advocate for anti-bullying. She played both flag football and basketball. She was into martial arts. You know what I'm saying? At a young age, she was like a prodigy. She built a movable robot at the age of 9 out of spare parts and toys from around the house. Kind of like Anakin Skywalker when he was a boy in Star Wars, stuff like that. She was artistic, she was a poet. She was a guitarist and a pianist. For all intents and purposes, you can consider her to be a Renaissance girl, Renaissance woman, whatever you want to call her, in the making. She was a child prodigy. With all of her accomplishments, though, she desired the approval of her father, even though her mother was raising her as a single parent. She desired the approval of her father, which she never really had in her life. And so Naima's story, it begins, obviously, at 6 weeks old. Her father disappeared from out of her life, and her mother raised her over the next few years, basically by telling her about her father, saying, this is who your father was, showing her pictures. So by the time she actually met him again at the age of 5 years old, it was almost, like natural. You know what I'm saying? So she had already known about her father based off what her mother was telling her, the type of guy he was, and they hit it right back off at the age of 5. So after they met up with, at 5 again, he disappeared out of her life again after a couple of months. And at this point, at 5 years old, this would plant that seed which would trigger this depression within this 5-year-old girl. And being that she felt that she was abandoned and she was not loved by her father. So she had developed, like I said, this depression. She would go through therapy from the ages of 9 through 13. Despite how much her mother tried as a single parent, all of these things, her mother's love just wasn't enough. the therapy, the counseling, these things just weren't enough. The therapists, the mental health professionals, they determined that it was temporary depression due to her father abandoning her, and that all she needed was a male figure to basically replace her natural father. But that didn't seem to help. She had coaches that from her playing sports and family members that tried to fill in that void, but they just couldn't fill in this void. It just wasn't successful. Her mother tried, unsuccessfully from 5 to 13 to establish contact with the father and inform him about his daughter's condition, but she was unsuccessful in doing this. And basically tried to establish contact through the sister. Even the courts couldn't find out where he was or what he was up to. The mother was basically told that he basically said that Naima was better off without him. That's the way he felt. That she would have a better life without him in her life. So this whole thing, it played heavy, obviously, on this young child's heart, this teenager's heart after all these years of battling with this and this depression and things of that nature. So after all the reaching out, the counseling, the therapy, and things like that, this young girl, this teenager, she quietly, took her life, at which point her mother discovered her lifeless body. An earlier part of this year, on Tuesday, January 17th of this year, at 7:02, when her mother was trying to wake her up to get her to go to school, she found her lifeless body there. Didn't even know, right across the hall from her. Did not, had no clue what was going on or that her daughter was at this point, despite all the things, all the therapy that she would do that. So, she had no clue. She left behind a suicide note, and it was basically titled, "If I Ever Kill Myself, Here's Why." And it was basically, she explained, what I just said about her father not being in her life and felt that she wasn't wanted or loved by her father. So if that's not something for you guys to think about as far as you not being involved in your daughter's life, that's just imagine that as a father, where you might have played this off and you come to this knowledge that your daughter took her life and she left behind a suicide note at the age of 13, just before her 14th birthday, that in her mind, the way she felt, she took her life because you weren't involved in her life, and she felt that this part of her life was missing. That's why she felt that out of all of these things, out of all her accomplishments, out of, the way the direction her life was going, and as far as being this smart, intelligent, young, artistic girl, that she would do this. She would take her own life. She would commit suicide at that point, which is very tragic. And imagine you as a parent, despite your efforts, having to come to terms with this, and nothing can prepare anyone for something like this, to actually come across, your child doing this, and your child actually writing a letter, and saying why. Nothing can prepare you. No parent, in my opinion, and maybe however y'all feel about it, no parent should have to outlive their child. Bottom line, especially you have dreams for your children. You have things that you see. You do your best to try and raise your kids the best you can and try to love and care for them. But sometimes there's always a missing piece that you may not be able to secure, for this child. So it makes me think about, something so surreal, coming to this knowledge that your child that you raised all this time is gone. Where your heart would be at. Where your heart would be at this point. And it makes me think about, And like I said, I'm not trying to get biblical and, scriptural and all this, but it makes me think about, obviously, the story of Moses and his mother, when obviously the order was given to kill all these boys when Moses was a baby, and his mother put him into the water at this point. And just imagine how traumatized she was, having to throw her newborn baby into the water, not knowing what's going to happen and what was going on with her heart. But the only way she was able to overcome this was by the mercy of God, who basically tied up her heart where she was able to do this. And that's something that, at the end of the day, for those who can't get over these things, is the only thing left, is that it is God who would have to tie up your heart to make you secure, that you are able to overcome these things. So, to tie up the heartstrings and bringing peace eventually upon a parent or the mother to do that. Now, she committed suicide. She took her life Tuesday, January 17th. 2 days later, her father was able to be reached despite all the previous attempts and offers to meet with his daughter over the past 8 years. He would basically read about his daughter's death via social media, Facebook, whatever have you, that she passed away. Naima, she would have been 14 years old this past May the 7th. At her funeral, the entire community showed up, her coaches, her other friends, it was packed wall to wall at her funeral. The entire community showed up for her funeral. Her father was there, and it was said that he basically cried in agony and guilt throughout the entire funeral and apologized that he wasn't there for her. But at this point, it was too late, obviously. And that's what I like y'all to keep in mind. You only get one chance at any of this. Mental illness and depression is real within children. Despite you think that it's more of an adult thing and you have to really experience something traumatic. But for this girl, this was traumatic even at the age of 5 years old. Fathers, I implore you to develop a healthy relationship with your daughters. If you can. Despite what may be going on with your daughter's mother, that, do your best. This can prove to be difficult at times, due to the child's mother and as the court system. However, if they're reaching out to you, there's no reason why you shouldn't be reciprocating or trying to have a relationship with your daughter. You're basically a crucial part of your daughter's life, and that's what I'd like y'all to realize if you don't already know. As I said, once again, you're responsible for building her confidence and showing her the example of what a man should be. Cultivating that love and reassuring this child of who they are in this world. I just wanted to say, like I said, I hope I did this justice in her story. Peace be upon you, Markeisha, who's the mother of Naima. And I hope the Almighty brings you peace and ties up your heart the same way he did Moses' mother. No, I know obviously your heart is inflamed and you're emotionally traumatized, but he's the only one that can do this. What I like you to know and everyone else to know, that this life is not a caravan of despair that goes along, and you just have to stay on this caravan throughout life. There is peace despite this. I'm not telling you to forget your daughter, but there is peace. And for any one of you out there who have experienced loss, and for some of you it may not be too late, to develop this relationship with your daughters. In scripture it says, God tells everyone, I am with those whose hearts are torn. He says, call on me and I will respond. That's a promise that he said. And it's also said, he says this, verily in the remembrance of God do hearts find peace and tranquility. Alladina amanu wa tatmainu kulubuhum bidikrullah. Alla bidikrullah tatmainu al qulub. Verily in the remembrance of God do hearts find peace and tranquility. So that is your number one asset for those who have experienced loss, is just the remembrance of God alone. And he will still your heart and tie up the heartstrings within your heart. You know, for those of you who going through these tragedies and turmoils. So, peace be upon you and your daughter. Peace be upon you all who may be going through a similar experience. Like I said, I hope I did this justice. I have the links in the description for you guys to check out. That way y'all can learn more about Naimah McDonald. You know, I have a link for her GoFundMe as well on there. And I also have some topics on there as well, you know, for suicide prevention within children, you know, and mental illness, yellow ribbon, things of that nature. So I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. You know, sorry the video is a little bit lengthy. Make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys definitely share the video, you know, to get this word out. Subscribe, hit the bell, that way you get the all the notifications for all my new content that comes out. Check me out on Amazon and social media. Check out my books on there. And for you, Merkeisha, and everyone else out there, remember that anything lost can be found again except for time wasted. When I say that to say you can find yourself again, and if you truly believe, you will find your daughter again. Not in this life, but in the next. So just remember that this is just temporary. So I thank you guys for tuning in, and I will definitely catch you guys on the next video. Thank you, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace be upon you all, and the mercy and blessings of the Almighty. I'm out.